Hey everybody, welcome to A New Perspective. I'm Elder T, and this is Little Prophet Tiana, who also happens to be my daughter. So we are having a very special conversation today. We are going to talk about communication, understanding, misunderstandings, distorted understandings. But we are just going to have a special conversation today about just about our relationship a little bit, and just about some things that we thought. And so let's get into it. So I myself, I've experienced a couple of transitions over the last 2 or 3 years, and one of them being a divorce. And during that period of time, after I separated from my husband, me and Little Prophet here, as well as my older son, we actually moved out of the marital home, and we moved away on our own. And at that time, because I was transitioning, the entire family was transitioning. So we all were going through our own different transitions at that time. So during that time, it caused me to reflect on a lot of things. And it caused me to reflect on how I actually related to her. So it caused me to reflect on how I related to my children, how I related to everyone. So I did a lot of self-reflection. And one of the things that I've come to understand is that I found that I had these expectations of her that was unbeknownst to her. And the fact that she was my only daughter, the fact that she was the youngest. So it was almost like I had a period of time where I was hypocritically judgmental of her. At times I'd even say hypercritical as well, because I felt like I would harp on her for things that it was just excessive. But there were also times that I would harp on her for things that I also was guilty of doing. And one of the things that God helped me to see is that things that I was actually punishing her for, she got it from me. So, like the laziness, like procrastination. I know I've expressed this to you before, but I was angry with you a lot because you had gained so much weight. And one of the things that God showed me was that a lot of that, one, was because of how I ate. It was how I was really lazy. I didn't like to exercise. I didn't like to do anything. So he helped me to see that a lot of your issues were because of me. And it wasn't until probably over like the last year or so that I really had come to terms with that. And how it came across was that in my communication with you, I found that I would communicate with you always in contempt. And it felt like probably, well, I don't want to speak for your feelings, but I knew that I would come to you from a place of contempt and sometimes anger. And so it would always sound like I was frustrated with you. So I don't know how it felt for you on your end, when I would communicate things to you, like something that should have been so small and probably shouldn't have been an argument, but it was always something where it probably felt like I was always coming at you for something. So I don't know what you felt during that time.
I have to say, being a kid at the time, it seemed kind of normal, doing things and having your parent get upset at you, and thinking that it's unfair, or that you're being picked on. I feel like it's kind of normal as a kid. But as you get older, and you start to notice that you play a part in your own wrongdoings, and as much as we push the blame off on other people, whether their reactions may be a different response than how you'd like it, it doesn't make your wrongdoing not a wrongdoing. And so I think a lot of times when our communication was off, It wasn't just how it came across, but it came from how I perceived it and how I received it. I didn't really have an open listening ear. I didn't really look at your response as, I didn't really look at it from a perspective of you trying to help me or just it being out of love, but I took it as, I was offended a lot of times, but we tend to use our offense as a crutch to not make change. And for a lot of time out of my life, that's all I did. And so I always looked to put blame, and I think most of the time I put it on you. But I was wrong.
So I will say one of the things that you made me think about was how in a home things that are dysfunctional can feel normal, but it's not normal. And because of unhealthy and toxic, communication, like me deflecting or reflecting all of my issues onto you, you grew up with the skewed perception of how communication was supposed to be. So it's like it skewed your perception of how healthy relationships, healthy communications are supposed to go. And, I feel like that has had a profound effect on your life and how you deal with men, how you deal with, with everybody, I also feel, I'm glad you brought up the fact about the offense too, because I do feel like also when I was going through a lot of my transition, I was indecisive about a lot of things. And I want to say during that period of time, I actually feel like it took me 3 years to actually get the divorce. But because I kept going back and forth, and I used a lot of excuses myself. But because I did that, I feel like it caused you not to be able to trust what it was that I was even telling you at the same time. And so I feel like it even skewed your perception of me as a mother. You know what I mean? Like, look at what you're doing. So talk to me a little bit about what you saw from me during that period of time and, what you felt, or what you thought. You could be honest. That's one of the things we do here at Anew. We tell the truth and we are transparent. I won't hold it against you.
Okay. I would say it definitely felt like that at times. Like I couldn't really believe or trust the advice that I was given, just because it felt contradictory to what I was seeing. I
don't know. I think it's almost like what we were talking about before, about how a lot of times I would tell you so many things, tell you, you got to be like this, you got to be strong, you got to, try to make, I tried to build you up to be a strong woman and, even being an example of going to work and my ambitions and, going to church, being an example of, a woman of God and all these things, right? But you saw me at a lot of low points, right? Where I had been indecisive and went back and forth about things in my mind. So talk to me about how that, how that affected your ability to even come to me or even rely on what it was that I was telling you.
With the indecisiveness, it made me feel like it was okay for me to be indecisive. I think that I was hesitant a lot of times to make decisions because I thought it was okay, or because I thought I had a choice per se.
Okay.
And although I did have a choice, it was a clear decision. And even though I had that clear decision in mind and it was right there in front of me, I chose to take an indecisive route. I chose to be ignorant. I chose to pretend like it wasn't happening, all for the sake of not changing, all for the sake of not hurting feelings, all for the sake of trying to protect an image. But yeah, the indecisiveness, it enabled me in some way. It made me feel like what I was doing was valid and okay. But it wasn't.
And when I tell you that you were wrong, in a way, it's almost like being a hypocrite,
yeah,
right?
And I couldn't receive it because that trust came into play, where it was like, if I see you doing it, why would I follow what you're saying when what you're saying doesn't match what you're doing?
Yeah.
And so it was like, you can't really, it's hard to believe or trust or follow when the example that's set isn't the best.
You know, what's interesting is you made me think about a saying that parents said a lot. Like, I would hear this term a lot: do as I say and not as I do. And what we as parents have to realize is that we have a very, very, very huge impact on what our children do. Whether most of the time it's in what we exemplify, how it is, what we're doing in our life, the decisions that we make. It causes them to make the wrong choices when we ourselves make the wrong choices. It doesn't matter so much what we say with our mouths, but they will follow what you do all the time. And I think, a lot of what, in my mind, it was like I had, I don't know, almost like it was probably, I know it was delusional, y'all. It was delusional. But it was almost like I expected you to be the perfect daughter. So, like, if you came to me about something and, like, you told me, like, you were experiencing this and experiencing that, it would be like I was flabbergasted. Like, you wasn't supposed to do this. You were supposed to be better than me. You were supposed to do everything that I did not do. Or you were not supposed to do everything I did do. So when you were not, quote unquote, perfect, I think I feel like I almost beat you up for it. You know what I mean? So now that I'm more conscious of it, I feel like even my own posture and attitude and how I come to you with certain problems, I feel like I have to be intentional and be led by God in how I approach you with certain things, because I feel like the approach has to change. It depends on what the issue is. But I feel like I have to be intentional about how I say things and, how I say things to you, so that it doesn't come out in a way where I'm filtering from a delusional place or this place that I had made up in my mind. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know, I know for you, I don't want to speak for you again, but I know that has to be a tough place for you to be in, you know what I mean? Especially being an adult, and me being your mom, but also an elder. So when I tell you something, it's like, I need for you to hear me, but I need for you to hear me, like, hear me good, So I don't know what your thoughts are about.
I definitely agree. I would say it's almost like the relationship between a mom and a daughter and someone who holds a position in the church and a member are different. I feel like although there's a level of respect that needs to be held for both ends, it's different, if that makes sense. And so I feel like it takes a certain amount of maturity and growth to be able to discern and rightfully divide those two. I think that a lot of the times when you would respond, and not from like a past standpoint, but from a current standpoint, where you have changed and you're not the same person that you were before. Now when you do speak, there's a change that needs to be had in me for me to be able to receive it properly. And so although you've done the work, there's a work that I need to do as well to be able to receive it properly, if that makes sense.
It do make sense. And the way that I see it, it's almost like during that period of transition when I was so indecisive, you saw like this natural person. So yes, I am a woman. Yes, I'm a woman of God. But you saw me in those moments and my low points, and it's like, well, I can't believe nothing you say. Like, who are you? Even though I'm one and the same at all times,
yes,
it was still hard to, like, I can't receive from you because I'm seeing you as this. Like, yes. you got to get yourself together before I can hear you.
Yes.
And then, of course, it distorts even the information that I may be even, given to you. You may not receive it and perceive it correctly. So it may also feel like not just being aggressive and not just, what's the word I want to use? I don't know. It may have caused you some confusion too. Like, who am I, or who should I be? Who, like, she's this, but I'm seeing everything that's contrary. I want to say it probably caused you to be confused about identity too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I don't know. During that time, what were your feelings toward me? I don't know. We talked about this before, and you said something, and it made me clutch my imaginary pearls because you was like, you felt sorry for me at some point. Talk to me about what you were really experiencing for me, like when you saw me at my low points.
It was hard, because you are so important in my life, and because you are in so many different aspects of my life. I kind of saw you in different ways. As a daughter, seeing it from the perspective of my parents are getting a divorce and my family, and but then from like the perspective of a woman, I did at one point feel sorry, because if there's not one thing that you taught us as kids, it was how intelligent we are and how beautiful we are. But I felt like with how much you were teaching us, with how much we deserve, it felt like you were settling. And so I felt sorry for you. I felt like you deserved so much more. I felt like you were worth so much more, and so it had me look at myself kind of in two different ways. I kind of went back and forth as well, feeling like, well, she says I'm beautiful, and I think she's beautiful, but she's doing this. It kind of made me look at myself in a different way. I kind of began to contradict the things that you did used to say. Things that would be good, I would double think about it again, if that makes sense. Kind of second guess it. Maybe it's not good. Maybe it's not something that I should have retained. But it all came from like a broken filter, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I don't know, for whatever reason, it hurt a little bit more when you said it that time that you felt sorry for me. So that's why I looked at it. Because you obviously don't see yourself in that place. And it takes someone from the outside looking in that can say, you was stupid. You was a whole wild mess. And so obviously it hits a little different when it's your own child that's saying that to you, you know? And, I can look back at it now and I'm like, okay, yeah, I was doing some dumb stuff. I was really like, I was not, focused. I was not, I was all over the place. So, I can look at it and say that now, but, back then I didn't. But, so for you to say that, I understand that as much as I was trying to push you to be this wonderful woman, like I wasn't imparting that in you. I was showing you and imparting the total opposite. And, that I feel like where we are today, though, I feel like it's such a different place. And, I feel like we've gotten a lot closer, even over the last year, I want to say. We still working out some stuff.
Yes.
Like you said, like, you're doing the work now so that you're able to perceive, because we talked about this before, that, sometimes when you speak to me, now you speak to me with contempt, or you speak to me with aggression, or you speak to me with like what? Like, why do I have to listen to you still? There's still a little bit of residue there. And with the fact that we've gone through that, it's almost like you devalued what it was that I was saying to you. So you didn't honor me as much as mom or elder. So where you are now, you're working on yourself to get to a place where you're able to receive and perceive correctly. So talk to me about what, about that transformation.
Definitely hard. Going from having that respect and honor in the beginning, and then having the divorce happen and kind of losing it along the way, and then trying to build it back up again.
So what you're saying is you lost respect for me in the process. Is that what you're saying? A little bit?
A little bit. I can't lie, just a little bit.
But I will say, because that was a product of me losing respect for myself.
Yes.
Because when you don't love yourself enough to make better choices for yourself, and when you don't love yourself enough to come out of toxic environments and, toxic relationships with people, you're not showing yourself any love, right? So, and you're not showing yourself respect, right? Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
I forgot the first question.
Talk to me about your transformation.
But yeah, it definitely takes growth and change. It takes a willingness to be able to accept that you were wrong. It's just there's accountability and there's accountability that needs to be had on my part in order to be able to change, in order to be able to receive. I have to be able to accept where I went wrong, and be able to do the work to go forward. But that's the period that I'm in right now, doing the work to get there.
And that's very good you say that, because I think people think that God is going to do everything for them and that they have no responsibility in their process of change and their process of transformation. And that is just not true. You have to do the work on yourself. And it's not all just going to church. It's not all just praying and fasting. You will need to seek a counselor, a licensed counselor, a therapist, and I suggest a therapist with the Holy Ghost, because they will guide you in your life. So yes, it takes a lot of work to heal. It takes a lot of work to become whole and to just become. Yeah. You got questions for me? feel like I sprung that on you. I'm sorry. But go ahead.
A little bit, but I have one prepared. I feel like in the past, a lot of times, it was very hard to know what you were feeling. I know you didn't like to express it a lot, but I feel like sharing how you felt during an important moment in time could be very beneficial for people to learn from, so that they know that certain feelings are okay, or that they're not wrong, or that they may be wrong but that they still happen. So are there any feelings or experiences that you had during one of those low points that you could share that would be beneficial?
So I'm gonna tell you what my problem was.
Okay.
Because a lot of what my problem was is that I kept saying that I don't know. I kept saying I don't know how I feel. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want to do. And that in there lies the problem in and of itself. Because one, it was a lie. Because I did know how I felt. But I was so ashamed about how I felt, I didn't want to share it with anybody. So I stayed in that place of I don't know. And what people don't realize is that when you continue to say I don't know, it keeps you in a stuck place. It keeps you in another place, and you straddle the fence, so you don't do anything. And so I knew I felt fear. I also felt a bit of shame for wanting to go back. And because when you're coming out of a toxic relationship, when you're coming out of a relationship that was not good for you, what person in their right mind would really want to go back to that? So I was in a place of like, I'm shameful, I'm fearful, I don't want anybody to know I feel this way. So there was a bit of fear of, well, what does this look like for the rest of my life? Like, coming down from 2 incomes to 1 income, and I got you, I got Antoine. So it's like I'm thinking of all these things. So I stayed in that comfortable place of I don't know. And it was comfortable there because there was no accountability and there was no responsibility. And I felt if I said I don't know enough, maybe I could just, what's the word? I was buying myself some time as to what it was, what move I really will make. And that caused me to just be all over the place. So I would say I had a lot of different feelings, but I never really honed in on them because I stayed in that stuck place of I don't know. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that caused me to be so indecisive. The Bible says that a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So that's in what you think, that's in what you do, it's in what you say. It's everything. So you'll always look like a basket case when you're in a place of I don't know, and you'll always remain stuck there because you won't do anything. You won't do anything on this side. You won't do anything on that side, but you'll be all over the place. That makes sense. And I think I kept a lot of things. Hidden because I wanted to keep up an image, so to speak. Because I didn't want anybody to know what I really felt, what I really thought, what I really wanted, and what I really hoped for. And then if you be honest, a lot of the stuff that we want and hope for is against what God is saying that you really need, right? So that be a lot of our issue too. I know that was a lot of my issue, and I was afraid to say that. And what's interesting during that time too is that I found that I was disconnecting from the people, from the voices, trusted voices that were in my life. So I was disconnecting from them and not following wise and sound counsel, but instead I was isolating myself to myself. And that's what the enemy does. He'll isolate you in your feelings and in your thoughts, and that's how you end up making dumb choices. And, that's not what God desires. So when you are in a place where you need to make, make big decisions in your life, it's important that you go to God, but that you don't disconnect from those trusted voices that God has put in your life, because they're there to help you. And you can't go with your feelings, y'all. Like, for real, emotions, they don't. I was listening to something yesterday. Emotions don't make any sense. Like, they will have you doing stuff all over the place. You can't be led by your feelings. And but instead of me, instead of me talking about what it is that I was thinking or feeling, I was pulling back and holding off on what I really wanted to say and what I really thought, because of shame, because I wanted to keep up an appearance that I was good, and I really wasn't. So I stayed in that comfortable place of I don't know, because I didn't want to be held accountable. I didn't want to be responsible. Oh wow. Okay. So do you have a final thought? Anything that you're thinking? Anything you want to share before we come off this podcast?
I'm really grateful that we made it to this point. I think that it's truly only the work of God that we made it to this point. That you've made the changes that you've made, that you've transformed. I'm really grateful.
So you don't feel sorry for me no
more?
No.
Okay.
And I appreciate you for being open and honest and sharing your thoughts on a new perspective. And as a mother, I could not be more proud of who you are and who God is shaping you to be. It's far more than what I could have imagined for myself, for myself. Okay? Thank y'all for joining us on A New Perspective. We'll see y'all next time.